The Read to Lead podcast turns 11. This is episode 536. Welcome. You're listening to the Read to Lead podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Brown. Today is an incredibly special day because we're celebrating 11 years of this podcast. 11 years ago today, Tuesday, July 16th, 2013, this podcast officially launched. And as you no doubt know, over the years, I've had the privilege of speaking with some of the brightest minds and discussing some of the most transformative books out there. So in honor of the 11th anniversary of the show, I thought it would be fitting to look back at 11 of the most influential books I've read since starting this journey. Each of these 11 books has had a lasting impact on me, and I hope on you as well. We're taking them in no particular order other than the order that they appeared on the show. So starting with the earliest book to the most recent. All that to say, they're not ranked per se, just in chronological order, if you will. So let's dive right in. Our first stop goes way back to episode 28 with Daniel Pink's To Sell is Human. And this book completely redefined my understanding of sales, how I thought of sales. Sales, when I was younger, was icky, was gross. Dan argues that sales isn't just for salespeople, it's a fundamental human skill. And that gave me sort of a whole new way to kind of frame it. Whether you're an accountant, an engineer, manager, you're in the business of moving other people. Dan introduces the new ABCs of selling. It's not always be closing. It's attunement, buoyancy, and clarity. Attunement is about understanding and aligning with others' perspectives. Buoyancy keeps us afloat amidst rejection, and clarity helps us see solutions more clearly. And one of the most surprising insights for me was that extroverts are not the best salespeople necessarily, as we're often taught or told, but ambiverts are the best salespeople because they balance listening with assertiveness. That again is Dan Pink's To Sell is Human. I've interviewed Dan a few times. The first time was episode 28. You can find that full interview at readtoleadpodcast.com/028. Next, let's talk about Greg McKeown's Essentialism, the Disciplined Pursuit of Less. I interviewed Greg in episode 52. This book is a game changer for anybody feeling overwhelmed by the demands of modern life. Greg teaches us that by focusing on the vital few instead of the trivial many, we can achieve more meaningful success. He shares a personal story about missing the birth of his daughter due to work commitments, which really drove home the importance for him of prioritizing what's truly essential. His 3-step process, exploring and evaluating options, eliminating the non-essential, and it's kind of hard for me to say, but I'll try, executing essential tasks effortlessly, has been a blueprint for my own productivity. Again, that's Greg McKeown's Essentialism, the Disciplined Pursuit of Less. You can find that full interview, readtoleadpodcast.com/052. Episode 68 introduced us to Hal Elrod and his book, The Miracle Morning. Hal's morning routine is designed to set a positive tone for the rest of the day. His life savers, savers being an acronym, silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing are simple but really powerful practices that anybody can integrate into their morning routine. And Hal's personal story of overcoming a near fatal accident and financial ruin is incredibly inspiring, whether you read it from the book or hear him talk about it in that episode. His message is clear. By starting your day with intention and purpose, we can transform our lives. That word intention and intentionality is one that I truly live by, and Hal's book was very inspiring in that sense, among others. Again, that's episode 68, readtoleadpodcast.com/068. It's Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning. For book 4, we move to episode 71. We haven't even got past episode 100 yet. That's when we welcomed Jeff Goins on for, I think, the second time to discuss the book, The Art of Work. Jeff challenges the notion that we all have a predetermined path. Instead, he argues that clarity comes through action. Do first, believe second, as Seth Godin once put it. The book is filled with stories of people who discovered their calling through a series of intentional steps, learning from failures along the way and pivoting when necessary. Jeff's advice to see failures as pivot points and to embrace the journey resonates with me deeply. Not only did we talk about the art of work in episode 71 with Jeff, where I asked Jeff my questions, we had him back, as I recall, 5 weeks later in episode 76, where I asked him questions submitted by folks just like you. You can hear both of those episodes, readtoleadpodcast.com/071, and that second one I mentioned, readtoleadpodcast.com/076. In both those episodes, we discussed Jeff's book, The Art of Work. Then episode 170 brought Vanessa Van Edwards and her book, Captivate, The Science of Succeeding with People. I loved this book. There's very few books quite like this. It was really fascinating to me. Vanessa's research on human behavior is, well, fascinating. She emphasizes the importance of listening intently and engaging deeply in conversations and helps you learn how to do that. Her concept of conversation sparks helps make interactions more memorable and impactful. And by understanding micro expressions, she says, and the what she calls big 5 personality traits, we can improve our social skills and build stronger relationships. Those big 5 personality traits, by the way, are openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, and make for a great framework for understanding different personalities. Again, that's Vanessa Van Edwards and her book, Captivate, The Science of Succeeding with People, discussed back in episode 170, readtoleadpodcast.com/170. Episode 183 featured Brian Moran's The 12-Week Year, how to get more done in 12 weeks than most people do in 12 months. Now, Brian actually did not appear on this episode, as I recall. I think I did an audio summary of the book. I did have Brian on and his co-author, Michael Lennington, years later to discuss their more recent book. But this book, to me, revolutionizes traditional goal setting by advocating for shorter, more focused execution periods. It's a pretty simple concept, but powerful in application by condensing planning into 12-week cycles instead of 12 months, as we often do. We create a sense of urgency that drives our progress. And Brian's emphasis on clear, specific goals and accountability partnerships has helped me achieve more in less time and bigger things, I would argue, during that time. It's a powerful system that can truly transform your productivity. Again, that's Brian Moran's The 12-Week Year. We discussed that in episode 183, readtoleadpodcast.com/183. We've had Tim Pollard on the show a couple of times, and the second visit from Tim was to discuss his book, Mastering the Moment, in episode 294. It's a must-read for anybody looking to improve the presentation skills. Tim's insights on preparation, rehearsal, and delivery are invaluable. He stresses the importance of matching the room's energy and using what he calls muscular language to engage the audience. His approach to proportional rehearsal ensures that key parts of the presentation are delivered flawlessly. This book has significantly improved my own public speaking abilities, I would argue. Again, it's called Mastering the Moment. Tim Pollard is the author, and you'll find the full interview at readtoleadpodcast.com/294. 7 down, just 4 to go. Next up is episode 324, where BJ Fogg introduced us to Tiny Habits, the small changes that change everything. Most everyone knows of the book Atomic Habits, written by James Clear, who is a fantastic author with a fantastic book selling over 10 million copies, but a habits book that, in my opinion, though it's not sold as many copies, is every bit as good as Atomic Habits, is BJ Fogg's Tiny Habits. BJ's behavior model shows that small, manageable actions can lead to significant transformations. His emphasis on celebrating small successes or self-reinforcement creates positive emotions that make habits stick, which is ultimately what we want habits to do, right? That's why they're called habits, because they stick. By simplifying behaviors and integrating them into daily routines, we can achieve, BJ says, lasting change. This book is a treasure trove of practical strategies for personal growth. Again, it's BJ Fogg's Tiny Habits, the small changes that change everything. You'll find that full interview at readtoleadpodcast.com/324. French author Alain Hunkins joined us in episode 328 to talk about his book, Cracking the Leadership Code. Alain emphasizes empathy, effective communication, and credibility as the cornerstones of strong leadership. And his personal stories and practical advice make the complex concepts of leadership accessible and actionable. By focusing on these three areas, we can become more effective and inspiring leaders. Again, empathy, effective communication, and credibility. These are the cornerstones, he says, of strong leadership. Find out more about Alain and Cracking the Leadership Code in episode 328. readtoleadpodcast.com/328. Episode 355 brought with it one of Todd Henry's 5 visits thus far on the podcast. In this episode, we talked about his book, The Motivation Code. Discover the hidden forces that drive your best work. Todd introduces the concept of productive passion, the intersection of our skills, affinities, and the value we bring to others. Aligning our work with our core values and beliefs enhances motivation and leads to more meaningful contributions, Todd says. Todd's insights are crucial for anyone looking to tap into their full potential. And, who isn't, right? Again, it's called The Motivation Code. Discover the hidden forces that drive your best work. A lot of research unpacked in this book. I love books that do that. Todd Henry, and you'll find the full episode at readtoleadpodcast.com/355. Well, that's 10 of our books, and that leaves just one more. In episode 407, about, 129 or so episodes ago, we had Dr. Nate Zinsser on the podcast to talk about his book, The Confident Mind, and I absolutely love this book. He demystifies confidence and provides practical strategies for achieving unshakable performance. That's what he calls it, unshakable performance. He emphasizes managing our psychological bank account through positive mental practices like visualization and positive self-talk. There's even like a pages-long script in the book that he recommends you record in your own voice to be able to play back and listen to later consistently with your eyes closed, just you and your voice pouring positive messages into your brain. I did this, and it was amazing. His insights from working with elite athletes and military personnel are incredibly valuable for anyone looking to enhance their confidence and their performance. Again, the book is called The Confident Mind, and the author is Dr. Nate Zinsser from episode 407. Find the full interview at readtoleadpodcast.com/407. I highly recommend this one and all 11 of the books and authors we discussed today. Again, they were in chronological order. Daniel Pink's To Sell is Human, Greg McKeown's Essentialism, The Disciplined Pursuit of Less, The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, The Art of Work by Jeff Goins, Vanessa Van Edwards' Captivate, The Science of Succeeding with People, The 12-Week Year by Brian Moran and Michael Lennington, Mastering the Moment from Tim Pollard, BJ Fogg's Tiny Habits, The Small Changes That Change Everything, Alain Hunkins' Cracking the Leadership Code, The Motivation Code, Discover the Hidden Forces That Drive Your Best Work from Todd Henry, and Dr. Nate Zinsser's The Confident Mind. There you have it, 11 incredible books that have shaped my journey, and I hope yours too. Each of these books offer unique insights and practical advice that can transform your personal and professional life. As we celebrate 11 years of the Read to Lead podcast, I want to thank you for your support and for being a part of this journey. Here's to many more years of learning and growing together. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review and a rating, and share this podcast and maybe this episode specifically with your friends and colleagues. It might be a great way to sort of wet someone's whistle for the podcast, if you will. Until next time, keep reading, keep learning, keep leading, and remember, leaders read and readers lead.